Are you curious about Gestalt language processing? You are not alone. Join me, Corinne Smoose, and speech therapy PD for our podcast, The Gestalt Get Together. Our episodes try to balance the enthusiasm and excitement about GLP and its associated intervention ideas, as well as a healthy dose of skepticism about how to understand and integrate this paradigm shift into your career and the field at large. We hope that you can get together with us to learn more about Gestalts.
Welcome to SLP Learning Series, a podcast series presented by SpeechTherapyPD.com. The SLP Learning Series explores various topics of speech-language pathology. Each season dives deeper into a topic with a different host and guests who are leaders in the field. Some topics include stuttering, AAC, sports concussion, teletherapy, ethics, and more. Each episode has an accompanying audio course on SpeechTherapyPD.com and is available for 0.1 ASHA CEUs. Now, come along with us as we look closer into the many topics of speech-language pathology.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for some of you repeat offenders who have been with us on some other episodes of the ShiftMakers podcast. And those of you who are new, welcome. Thank you so much for joining on this continued journey where we're really tapping into some growth and self-discovery. I'm your host, Stephanie Michelle Swigert. I'm a licensed and practicing school-based SLP out in Los Angeles, California. I'm also certified as a teacher of mindfulness and compassion-based practices. So I'm certified in that area, and I will be sharing with you today some compassion-based practices. My pronouns are she, her. We do have some housekeeping to go over. I want to say thank you to SpeechTherapyPD.com for having us, for having another episode of ShiftMakers. This is such a wonderful opportunity for us to really be together for holistic self-development, which is some of my personal favorite. And it meets my needs just to be able to be here with all of you, just to share compassion in our field. It meets my needs for creativity, being able to create these experiential lessons for you guys. It meets my needs for community, to be able to be here with all of you and to have you in that chat box. I'm really hoping to see you all there in this episode, and it also meets my need for fun. So let's get ready to have some fun. Each episode on this podcast is 60 minutes. So you're going to be offered 0.1 ASHA CEUs. As far as financial and non-financial disclosures, I do have to talk about those. For financial disclosures, I do own a non-public agency. It's Golden State Speech Pathology Services. We're in Southern California. And I also receive compensation for this podcast and for other presentations that I do with SpeechTherapyPD.com and for the sale of digital courses that I have, ShiftMakers 1.0 and the framework to becoming a mindful speech clinician. As far as non-financial disclosures, I don't have any to share at this time. All right, I want to see who is with me here today. Go ahead, if you're here, throw it in the chat box if you can, not if you're driving. Anywhere that you're tuning in from, maybe it's your city, maybe it's your state, your country, maybe you just want to tell me, hey, I'm sitting on my couch listening to you. One of the amazing things about SpeechTherapyPD.com is we can access professional development from anywhere. We got Dana from Colorado, Sunnyvale, California, Christina, yes, awesome. I mentioned I'm in Los Angeles, California, so I do see some other Californians in the chat box. Yes, Angela from Los Angeles also. Howdy, neighbor. Katie from Phoenix, shout out to Phoenix, Arizona. Awesome, San Diego. Great, guys, we got, Californians, Arizona. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Kaiser, Kaiser. Gotcha. Thanks for being here. Alabama, woohoo. We got the, Texas, Japan. Shout out to Japan. That is amazing. How exciting. Hazel, thanks for being here from Japan. I have no idea what time it is in Japan right now. Temecula, awesome. I wonder if you were here last time. I remember a Temecula from last time. 10 a.m. All right, at 10 a.m. for Hazel. Awesome. Love that. Thank you guys. This is an hour of your time, and I do not take that lightly. That is so amazing. I value your time. You're super important to me, and I want to make sure that you are taking away something from this episode. So What we're going to do is, and as I do at the beginning of all my episodes, let's just take a minute. I want to sort of rein it all in, leave everything that we were just doing behind us, and collect here in this present moment. So wherever you are, find a comfortable seat. If you want to lay down, that's okay too. If it feels good to close your eyes, go ahead and do so, or a soft downward gaze. And we're going to just take a big, deep breath. This is a calming breath together. You're going to inhale deeply through your nose, feeling the air maybe go through your nostrils to the back of your throat, maybe feeling your chest expand as your lungs are filling up. And then go ahead and exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension, any stress. Just let everything go, everything on your plate. It will be there when we're done with this episode for you to come back to. And let's just hang out in this space where we can release, we can connect, and be here fully present together. One more big, deep breath in and out, because what we're doing is we are just calming and relaxing that nervous system, and we are regulating ourselves. So thank you so much. I want to share that the person for our case study today that we're going to be talking about has opted not to appear live on the air. We absolutely respect their choice. We value their privacy. However, they have generously provided us with information to be able to share their detailed case scenario with you. They gave it to us in a questionnaire, and I believe their experience is incredibly valuable to explore. And I want to let you know we do have permission to do so. So today's episode, Caseload Chaos. Let's do it. Communicating like a pro with the higher ups. So I'll be sharing their insights and their story on their behalf. Again, thank you for understanding and respecting this person's choice to remain anonymous. As always, this conversation is definitely a shared experience with all of you guys. So if you're joining us live, feel free to jump into that chat box. I got it pulled up right here, right next to me. And your questions, your comments, your insights, not just welcome, guys, highly, highly encouraged. I want to hear from you. We're all learning together, and I'm going to learn from you also. So I prepared something special for you. You might have seen it in your handouts. There is a workbook you can download. There's a QR code on that handout. Go ahead and you can hold up your phone to it. You can take a click on the link when it's in your camera lens. This will give you the workbook companion, and this is our tool that will really guide us as we navigate today's topic. If you don't have it right now, no problem. Make sure you grab that later for when you are reframing those texts, those emails, and all those future conversations you're going to have after this episode. All right, your participation, remember, makes this podcast a community. I am excited to hear from you. So let's dive into this conversation. Let's just not make it informative, but really interactive. I believe in interactive and experiential professional development. So let's make this a great discussion. I'm going to start off today. I want to pull up a poem that it's a Cherokee parable, actually, that I love. And it goes like this. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It's a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. The grandson thought about this for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? And the old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. A big part of compassionate communication is that we have a choice. We have the freedom to make choices in how we want to communicate, in who we want to be, and how we want to show up for ourselves, for our clients, for our colleagues, for others. And with that freedom comes responsibility, right? Responsibility for the choices that we're making, whether it's in our personal life or our professional life. We hold the power. And when we hold that power, what we're doing now is we are releasing others from having control over us or having control over our emotions or our actions or even being responsible for them. So when we decide to exercise choice, it's a very important word in compassionate communication. it's really important that we're going to look very closely at the options that we have to choose from so that we can align not only our choices, but our decision with what matters to us. And what matters to us is our values, our desires, things that align with who we are at the core, our authentic selves. So, when it comes to conflicts and challenges in your life, whether you're having these challenges with yourself or with others, and again, on personal level or professional level, which wolf do you feed? That's the question. Is it the wolf of anger when your collaboration with your team suddenly falls apart? Is it envy over your colleague's pay rate? Regret over maybe something you said in a meeting with an advocate that you wish you didn't? Is it greed around your therapy materials and resources? Is it arrogance with the skills that you've acquired or your skill level? Self-pity, maybe when parents are upset with your therapy approach? Is it resentment when your boundaries at work are being pushed? Is it inferiority with administration? Or maybe lies that you tell yourself about how much you can handle on the job? Is it feelings of superiority that you have over a mentee that maybe you've been asked to train? Or is it your ego, sometimes inflated when you're pushing your idea onto others? Or is it the wolf of joy? Is it those moments when you're celebrating your coworkers' achievements or peace in your collaboration or a connection, wonderful connection that's formed in IEP meetings, or the love that we share with our clients, or hope that you have that maybe collaboration will be more effective in the next meeting? Is it humility that you have for the skills that you've acquired and that you're bringing to the table? Is it kindness when we talk about others in the lunchroom? Is it empathy when we try to understand what administration or the higher ups might be going through and what their needs are? Is it generosity with our time and resources, truth about maybe what we're needing or feeling in the moment? Or is it compassion to ourselves when times seem to get really tough? Which wolf will you feed? As a helping professional, an SLP, an SLPA, a psychologist, a therapist, any of the behavioral therapists, you hold the power to change lives by choosing where you're going to direct your focus, right? Much like feeding that wolf. You decide whether to nurture that wolf of positivity or starve that wolf of negativity. And by consistently over and over investing your energy in positive and uplifting thoughts and emotions, you're not only strengthening your own resilience you have, but you're contributing positively to the well-being of all the lives around you that you're going to affect. It ripples out, right? It might be your clients, your colleagues, your students, your patients, their families, and so on. Okay, so the question begs, we all have the evil wolf and the good wolf inside of us, fighting a terrible fight. Which one will win? Which one will you feed? So, in that spirit, we're going to move on to our case study for today's episode. This is the exact words that was shared from the questionnaire that was filled out. The question that we asked the participant was, what is your situational conflict or challenge, current or past, and how has it impacted you, whether it's your stress levels, your well-being? We want to know all the details, but we don't want to know the names. We're not going to gossip about names or names of organizations or people that you've interacted with. These are the exact words that came from our participant. They said, quote, caseloads are high, paperwork is profuse, meetings are too long. It is difficult to tell administration in a clear manner why so many people on a caseload makes doing my job less effective. Okay. And when we asked this participant, how do you typically handle conflicts or disagreements in your professional relationships? The response was, I probably just avoid conflict as much as possible. Compliance is easier than confrontation. And I want to repeat that last part that they said. Compliance is easier than confrontation. So this person shared with us that also in the questionnaire that they're somewhat uncomfortable with being able to really express their emotions in conversations. And I believe it was frustration. That was one specific emotion that was more challenging for them to express. And the participant in the questionnaire, they informed us that they were open to feedback and willing to make changes on it. I just want to take a moment to take that in and think, like, how common is this, right? That we're hearing that this person has a caseload and a workload that's like not allowing them to really be as effective in their jobs as they'd like to be. That sounds pretty relatable. And I imagine that's extremely frustrating if that's happening for anybody that's listening as well. And that can really lead us to a place of obviously feeling overwhelmed and feeling exhausted and having some resentment. And perhaps our participant is needing more support and more understanding and more of this shared reality with administration about how this high caseload workload can negatively impact our role as speech therapists. And I think it's a matter too of looking at workload, not just caseload, right? Our numbers may be high, but we're not just treating and testing, right? We have all the hours that we've invested into IEP meetings and staffings and writing reports and triennials and progress reports and making phone calls, all the duties with collaboration and prepping for therapy materials and our lesson plans. And I think I'm getting anxious just thinking about all of the things literally that we do in our job in the school systems, and I'm sure in other positions as well. If you're tuning in and you're in another position, there's many duties that we have that contribute to our overall workload. So, deep breath in and out for just that heavy load of all the things that we are expected to do. So, to the participant, if they're joining in or listening in on this call, they're in with enrolling in this course. I hope that sounds right on what's going on for you, that you're having a lot of real challenges that I think all of us at some point have faced in the workplace. I want to dive into my chat box real quickly. Anyone here right now that's listening, are you feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, or frustrated right now due to your caseload workload? Throw in all caps yes in that chat box. If you can relate maybe now or in the past in a different assignment where your numbers were high, your workload was even higher, and it really made, yep, Katie, yes, it made your job a lot harder to do. Because I think this is something that all of us have experienced at some point in time. So this is one of our course objectives here on this episode, and it's really to Allie, yes to workload, yes. So Allie can relate to that as well. I see the chat box, some yeses. So one of our objectives here is to gain insights into these challenges. What are the challenges that clinicians are facing when we are managing large caseloads, and kind of talking about how it directly can affect our efficiency on the job. It's not always easy to be able to address these challenges that we as clinicians may face when we're trying to manage all of this. It's not always easy to go to the higher ups and say, hey, here's what's going on. To be able to communicate that can be very challenging for some. And our participant for this case, she said, or he said, or they said, it is difficult to tell administration in a clear manner why so many people on caseload makes doing my job less effective. And I'm wondering how many other people out there listening are thinking, yes, it's very hard to do that. So that's what we're going to work on today. KK said yes and yes. Very good. All right, so let's backtrack a second. Let's get clarity on some of the challenges. I want a bullet point there in your handout with managing these large caseloads. These are going to be objective pain points. So follow along with me on this so that we can have this and create these objective statements that are really going to help you build your case when you go and you're communicating with admin or the higher ups, the program specialist, or whoever's at your site that you need to speak with. These are bullet points, again, listed in your handouts as well. But the first thing we want to do is we want to get clarity on our numbers. Okay, so it's really important to factor in the numbers that we have. We're going to express those numbers that we have, and we're going to point out that within these numbers lies diversity and complexity. Okay, super important because not all of our clients on our caseload are going to have the same needs or require the same amount of resources from us or the same amount of time from us. Okay, very important. Number two, we're going to identify our time constraints. And what I mean by this is, guys, there's only so many paid hours in a day. We're not working for free, right? And how is it possible to be able to fit it all in with some part of your workload now getting less attention, right? Whether it's that extra time and attention to maybe details of a report that you're writing, or extra time to plan meaningful sessions that are really going to be individualized and unique to each of your students. The challenge is balancing time so that you can ensure that you are thorough in all the different areas of your work. Number 3, we're going to take inventory of the emotional impact. We're going to connect to how are we feeling, right? We want to consider the emotional impact that having this higher caseload or workload can have on a therapist. This is so key, and it's going to be so vital to be able to express. So by this, what I mean is if we have reduced well-being, if we have exhaustion, if we have compassion fatigue, if we're just tired, if we're getting health issues, right? And what emotions are coming up for you? You ask yourself, how am I feeling? What is the burden that can come with dealing day in and day out with either physically demanding or emotionally demanding or challenging cases? Okay, so take inventory on how you're feeling. Number 4, we're going to describe how your efficiency is impacted, okay, because most likely is impacted. So we need to look at struggles with efficiency, right? So what you're going to do here is, so being able to maintain efficiency when you have a high caseload or workload, and knowing that this high workload can impact you, you want to state how. So whether it's the documentation, now I have to go and I have to document for each of these cases, and I might not be efficient in that, or your efficiency is down with being able to collaborate with other professionals. Super important in the job. We have to have that time, that increment of time to be able to collaborate with others. We're just one piece of the puzzle, right? Efficiency might be down in getting really good at being able to schedule for therapy, or efficiency with our outcomes of how the sessions are going. So we're going to take note of how that efficiency is impacted. Number 5, we're going to express now the relationship component with our clients. So the relationship, also very, very important, right? It's important to consider with quantity, we lose quality, right? We've heard that more quantity, less quality, right? And that's the same with relationships, the relationship aspect of our job. When we're rushing here or there and everywhere to get things done, what's happening? We're losing that valuable time to be able to establish that rapport and that time to deeply connect with our clients or our colleagues, if it's a matter of collaboration, to be able to have that deeper level in those relationships. And it can feel frustrating. I know at times I've said it was in my thoughts being like a factory, like one after another client coming in, and you're really losing that therapist-client relationship because you're just speeding along and already trying to move on to the next group, right? The pleasantries go out the door, the small talk goes out the door. So think about how you can express the impact of the relationship with your clients. And then number 6 is noting errors that you might have made. We all make mistakes. It's actually good to point out your mistakes. I don't know about you, but when I'm inundated with way too many things, like you should just see me when I'm running late trying to get my daughter to school, I'm going to forget things, right? When we're rushing to get through things, this opens the possibility or opens the door for more mistakes to happen. And this is not a field that we want to continually make a lot of mistakes in when it comes to diagnosing and treating or caring for individuals and their needs, or even in our documentation, right? So these are such important areas that we want to make sure that we have clinical accuracy as best we can. So that can be another key point that we can share for thinking about and understanding now and setting the stage for what we need to point out when we're advocating for more support, when we're advocating because we need better boundaries or less work in our day. And again, I invite you to try to stay neutral in your observations. So you're going to be removing judgments and criticism and blame. And you're going to stick to those points that I mentioned, those 6 bullet points, with as many key facts as you can, removing your evaluation and just pointing out the key facts. So our listeners' ears stay open and nobody is going on the defense. All right, let's remind ourselves again what the participant said. When asked, how do you typically handle conflicts or disagreements in your personal or professional relationships? How do you typically handle those disagreements? And our participant said, I probably just avoid conflict as much as possible. Compliance is easier than confrontation. So this brings us to our next piece of our episode. And this is really looking at practical tips and approaches for handling workplace conflict. And let's say specifically for addressing this tendency to really prioritize compliance over confrontation. I want you all just to take a quick minute to reflect on a time when your caseload or your workload at an assignment was not sustainable and you really lacked the necessary support, right, to complete the job efficiently, effectively. I want you to sort of remember the details of that assignment. Where were you? Think about this in your mind. Where were you? Who was around? What level of support did you have? What level of support was really needed? And I want you to reflect on how you felt. What were your emotions during that challenging time? What came up for you? Was there overwhelm? Maybe some frustration, anger, maybe some hopelessness, the evil wolf, exhaustion, stress, maybe disappointment. What was alive for you as you're recalling this? Did you notice an impact on your health? Maybe you were getting frequent colds. Maybe you weren't exercising as much from the exhaustion. Maybe you weren't focusing on taking that lunch break, so you weren't nourishing yourself as much with nourishing foods or taking breaks throughout the day as you needed to just to rest. Maybe you got sick. Who did you turn to for support during this period of time, or did you remain to yourself? Did you find yourself advocating for your needs or stating your boundaries? And who did you speak with? Was it someone at your side, or were you complaining to a family member at home? Did that feel safest? Or was it communicating to your boss or a colleague? Or did you go to the higher ups and share your concerns? Or did you just kind of trudge through with resentment, just try to do it anyways, murmuring under your breath? Or did you put your foot down and refuse any additional tasks? Hang on to that memory. We are going to come back to that and reflect on it a bit later. Thank you to those of you who sat and reflected on this. I'm sure each person's experience is so very different with this, and that the answers that maybe you came up with in your mind might look different for each of you, because we all have different ways to respond to challenges and conflict. And that's the next part of our learning. We're going to dive into what are those different ways that we habitually, right? Habitually, because it's been deeply conditioned. What are those ways that we habitually respond to conflict? And again, it's due to our conditioning.
Are you taking advantage of our new amazing feature? The certificate tracker. The free CE tracker allows you to keep track of all of your CEUs, whether they are earned with us at speechtherapypd.com or through another provider. Simply upload your certificate to your registered account and you're all set. So come join the fastest growing CE provider, speechtherapypd.com.
I want to talk specifically now, as we're almost halfway through here, about different ways that one may handle conflict. And you have a reference for this in your handout. There's a book that I absolutely love. I refer to it a lot. It's called Say What You Mean. It's by Oren J. Soffer. I use this book a lot as a resource. He's a certified trainer in the area of nonviolent communication. And that's what these compassionate communication strategies are. And to date, there's probably a little less than 700 of these trainers in the world, but the number is growing. I'm not certified in NVC, but I am certified from an esteemed 2-year program as a teacher of mindfulness and compassion-based practices, where a lot of these practices were shared as well. And they're absolutely amazing. But in his book, Oren really shares that there's 4 different ways that we can habitually respond to conflict. These are also listed in your handout. You'll see them listed there. The invitation here is for you to really listen closely now to how I'm going to describe these. And I want you to sort of imagine which one calls out to you, if you will. How do you manage, or how do you typically respond to conflict or challenges in the workplace, right? As it relates to conflict with your caseload or workload management, or maybe it's conflict in your communication with your colleagues, or maybe even challenges with trying to get your pay increased, or challenges with litigious or contentious IEPs. Those are some of the ones that seem to come up a lot. Let's let's take a look. And if you don't have that handout available, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the 4 into the chat box so that you can reference those right now. And for people who are just listening, I'll go ahead and name those. Number 1 is conflict avoidance. Number 2 is competitive confrontation. Number 3 is passivity. And number 4 is passive aggression. You might already know by just kind of looking at it which one you are. I gave my mom a test on this morning in the car, and I knew which one she was going to say. My mom was competitive confrontation because she was getting ready to make a call to her cable company about something she was really upset about. So we worked through that a little bit on the phone this morning. That was fun. All right, let's dive into now what each of these means. So you can kind of see, we'll just do broad strokes of this. So you can kind of see which one maybe you relate to the most. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is conflict avoidant. So for everybody that's listening, when you logged into your speechtherapypd.com account and you registered for this course, you went through a series of steps. One of those steps is your handout, and you can download that handout. You'll see these 4 steps on that handout. So you can go ahead and check back to your handout for that. Hopefully that helps you out, Dana. All right, conflict avoidance. This is just as it sounds. You tend to avoid conflict, right? Remember the words of our participant when we asked them, how you handle disagreements, they said, I probably just avoid conflict as much as possible. Compliance is easier than confrontation. So there we see that our participant in that situation that they were explaining is conflict avoidant in those conflicts or disagreements. So this might mean when you find yourself getting into a sticky situation, you might be more likely to say things like, can we just focus on the positive things right now, guys, about our student and get back on track with what we were talking about? Or you might say anything completely off the topic, right? To kind of steer the conversation in a different way. You might go as far as saying, I'm just going to ignore this issue altogether. It's not here. I don't see it. It's not in view. It's not happening, right? Conflict avoidant. So imagine, for my example, that you have a school-based SLP who is conflict avoidant, who's juggling this caseload of, say, 75 students, who has 1 day of SLP support, SLPA support. This SLP is extremely overwhelmed. They're run down. They're exhausted, as you imagine they might be. And rather than addressing the issue with admin, this conflict avoidant SLP may choose not to address their concerns at all, because this SLP doesn't want to start a fire. Because if they address it again with admin, that could appear that maybe they're complaining, or maybe it's going to appear that they're ungrateful, or maybe they don't want to draw a lot of attention on themselves with admin out of fear that, and by admin, I mean administration, out of fear that if I say something, this situation could escalate. I could make a mountain out of a molehill, right? Especially if we think that the administration will just say no. So it's I'd rather just avoid that altogether. Remember that checklist, those 6 bullet points that I share with you with all of the concerns that can come from a high caseload or workload? Well, now our SLP in this scenario has high numbers, right, on their diverse and complex caseload. They don't have enough time to fit in all the things that they would like to do. Maybe their emotions are heightened since their needs for support are not being advocated for. Maybe their relationships with their teachers are suffering since the SLP isn't checking in, doesn't have time to collaborate with them. And maybe this SLP is making tons of errors on their report since they're having to rush to kind of type them in because there's just too many IEP meetings that they're sitting in the same week. There's little time left, the little time they have, they're trying to get that report, but more errors happening, right? And so this SLP decides, I'm done. I'm going to quit. I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to tell my recruiter or the district or their boss, whoever they work for, I'm going to, this is not sustainable. I'm done. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with this at all. Right. So with this style of managing conflict, you're understanding the needs of others. You've got that in check. You know what they're needing of you. Right. But perhaps by you exiting stage left, this is a missed opportunity for engaging in meaningful conversation with the administration to express what you're feeling, what you're needing, and then determining if there's a possibility for you guys to sit down and strategize ways to meeting everybody's needs, which now opens the door for a deeper connection with the relationship with the people that you're speaking with, more meaningful work, more understanding on the team, more support on the job, rather than just hopping from job to job, hoping that eventually one will be conflict free. And I say that, I speak from experience. If you know my story, I used to hop from job to job to job, hoping to find that perfect job where things were just as I wanted them to be. That doesn't exist. There is conflict in every job that we go into. Competitive confrontation is number 2. Okay, so this response, as you can imagine, is more aggressive, right? It's more aggressive in our nature in that it makes our needs the priority. What's important to us takes priority, and we forcibly put our needs onto others, so much so that we're not even considering their viewpoints. We're not even going to take that into consideration. And this can often be characterized by what we call life alienating communication and compassionate communication. And life alienating communication is when we use blame, judgment, criticism, when we're diagnosing others. He's a liar. He's rude. So in competitive confrontation, our tone of voice may change. Our volume might increase when we're speaking. Go back to that conflict avoidant person. And what happens is when we avoid the conflict, and it comes again one day, that's it. It's like our lid popped, right? It's like one of the idioms we teach our students. We blew our lid, right? We lose it, we snap. And then all of a sudden we get loud, we're demanding, I'm not doing it. I'm done dealing with this. I'm going to do it my way, right? And this would flip the conflict avoidant person now to a competitive confrontation. So with competitive confrontation, our needs are being met, but at whatever and whoever's expense. Like, don't get in my way. We're not backing down. And it's that strong mentality of, I'm right, you're wrong. So when we go back to the scenario of the SLP having this large caseload, workload, too many meetings, too much paperwork, with the competitive confrontational SLP, we would see this SLP make a call to administration, loud volume on the phone, maybe a change in their tone of voice, and they're now demanding, right? I need 3 days of an SLPA to get this work done. And now maybe the SLP is blaming. We might have that life alienating communication of blaming administration. You gave me too many students. You know what? It's because you gave me too many students. That's why work's falling apart. That's why I'm missing deadlines. That's why things are out of compliance. So many errors being made is because you gave me all this work and I can't handle it, right? That's why things are so chaotic. We put the blame back on administration. The SLP might continue to express, you know what? I can't do this job. I won't do this job without more SLPA time. And you know what? It's not happening. And things are about to fall apart and out of compliance real fast if I take myself to another district. So you need to figure this out. So now my needs trump everybody else's needs, right? And then maybe the SLP goes and demands to the SLPA that they might have for 1 day a week, like, hey, you need to see double the amount of kiddos now in each of your group. No questions asked. This is what you need to do because I'm not getting support. So I'm going to put that demand on you. So what's lacking here, what's lacking in this approach is, again, everybody's needs matter. The SLP's needs matter. The SLPA's needs matter. The administration's needs matter. And if we take the approach to putting our needs in front of someone else's needs, and we do so using blame and judgment and criticism, guess what? This is where our relationships start to deteriorate. This is where our relationships start to fall apart. This is where you hear the people say, oh, I think I burnt that bridge. You can't go back there again, right? Can't go back to that agency or that job site because we burn bridges. Number 3 is passivity. Passivity is being passive. This is when we just go along with others and now we give up on our own needs. Okay, so this is the approach of whatever you want, right? Whatever you need. Okay, so now we're perceived as easygoing, flexible. Stephanie's accommodating. She's there for us. She really takes one for the team, right? And we say yes to things even when we don't agree. Okay, even when we don't agree. And the reason this is different than conflict avoidant is that with conflict avoidant, we're avoiding it altogether, right? In fear that it's going to escalate the problems. You don't address it at all with administration or whoever your challenge is with. But with passivity, you might find yourself thinking, you know what, I'll do it this time. I'll do it this time so everybody's happy. I'm new. I want to be liked. Or, you know what, my happiness isn't important right now. Let's just get this done. If I do this and I say yes, maybe I'll be accepted into happy hour. They'll want to go out with me. I'll be accepted into this peer group, right? I want to get along just for getting along's sake. And you become a people pleaser or an appeaser, right? You find ways just to appease people. And this, my friends, I tell you, can and will breed resentment over time and weaken our connection with others, the others that are giving us the things to do that we are just appeasing. So going back to our scenario of the SLP and SLPA, passivity would look like the SLP always taking on extra work when asked by the district, even if they don't think that they can really handle more students or clients on their caseload. But they do it willingly, right? We do it willingly because I want to be liked by the district or by my organization. I want to be employee of the month. I want to be praised, right? For my hard work. I want to inflate my ego and my ability to, like I said, I'm going to take this for the team. Everybody's going to really appreciate that. And if they agree to this extra work, they think, you know what? Now everything is just going to roll along smoothly. There's not going to be any bumps in the road. What happens with this style of conflict is some of your needs might be met, but you're prioritizing maybe your needs for belonging or your needs for acknowledgement or your needs for peace and in harmony in the sense that you're not ruffling any feathers, right? That's the piece. But this requires you to have strong inner armor. Okay, if you don't have that strong inner armor, watch out. Passivity is not for the weak. And what happens here too is that, this can become the breeding grounds for resenting others when you're giving in and giving in to them time and time and time again. And it's going to impact your relationship with those who are asking you to do that because you're going to breed that resentment for them. Let's go on to the last one, passive aggression. I'm raising my hand as a personal favorite from my past. Somewhat confrontational in nature, mixed with a little bit of passivity, if you will, okay? You might agree to do something. Yeah, I gotcha. I can do that, right? I'm on it. But behind closed doors, oh, man, you are complaining and blaming and bashing and insulting or saying how you really feel about doing what you've been asked to do, okay? You're super sweet and nice when you accept yeah, I can do that. No problem. I gotcha, right? When they're asking you, it's all good. It's gravy. But when doors are closed, the true nature of anger and resentment, and why do I have to do this? Why are they asking me? Frustrations are on the rise, right? So in our scenario, again, this could look like our SLP agreeing to, yep, I got it. I'll take on that extra work. I'll do that high caseload. But now they're murmuring, all these negative comments, like under their breath, the whole way out the door about how unsupportive administration is or how ridiculous admin is for thinking that this is okay and for doing this to SLPs, or we're blaming them. It's all their fault that things are falling apart and SLPs are leaving their jobs in the school system, right? They could just be more organized. If they could get their budget under control, this wouldn't happen to therapists. This is, and I don't know if any of that's ringing in your ears, like, yep, we've heard that. Yep, I've said that. No blame, no judgment, right? Passive aggression, right? This can look like taking on the work, but now maybe I'm going to intentionally slip to show them. I'm going to show them, that's in air quotes for those who can't see me right now. I'm going to show them what happens when you give me too much work, right? Well, maybe I'm going to miss some therapy sessions now. Yeah, well, going to have to put that on the back burner. Those are just going to have to wait because, hey, you want me to test these 3 extra kids? Guess what? That's going to be out of compliance, right? So it's sort of that attitude. And what happens here, again, is the SLP is, in this case scenario, abandoning their own needs in this situation. And guess what? Now we have more problems, a lot more problems, broken relationships, less happiness on the job. It sure doesn't feel good to be murmuring and grunting and blaming, right? And carrying that negative energy with you. We've got less satisfaction in our roles on the job. Our well-being is like tanking. Passive aggression. So those are the 4 styles. And the question here is compliance really more beneficial than confrontation? Is it? Because the goal in conflict really is to see everyone at the table as much as possible, their unique perspective, whether you agree with it or not. and try to connect to each person's feelings and needs in a situation, and then strategize ways to meet as many of those needs as possible for everyone. That's the goal. The mantra should be everyone's needs matter. Everyone's needs matter. So the invitation to all of you now is to kind of self-reflect on which habitual conflict styles you operate in times of challenge in the workplace. And we need to recognize them. We need to self-reflect so that we can see which of those we are before we can begin to shift our processes for how we're dealing with conflict. Again, shift our processes. We are shift makers. That is the name of this podcast. We are making the shift. We are moving from A to B. This is a transformational opportunity to move out of these habitual conditioned ways of responding to challenges and conflict and moving in to this new space, this compassionate communication where we're building bridges, we're strengthening relationships, we're increasing our happiness and job satisfaction, and we're doing so through strategies in our compassionate communication. All right, so I'm curious, let's go back a moment to that conflict or challenge I had you reflect upon in the beginning of this episode. Think about where you were, who you were with, what the circumstances of the conflict were. If you'd like, I'm curious for you to pop it into the chat box now. I'd love to know, thinking of that conflict, how you managed it or handled it or didn't handle it. No judgment in any of this, but in self-reflecting, which of these conflict styles do you align with? So again, I'm going to put the numbers right here. You can even throw the numbers into the chat box. See if any of those, go ahead and just popcorn those numbers in there. If you can think of a time or you know that that's sort of your style, again, no judgment, but popcorn those numbers in there and let's see how many of us can fall into some of these categories. Joni, yes, conflict avoidant. Joni's like, nope, I'm out of here. Yes. Joni's got smoke coming out of her feet. Christina, I hate confrontation, so I avoid it at all costs. Yes, Christina's number one. Katie, passivity. Katie's like, okay, I want to do it. I'll see you at happy hour. I want to be your friend. All right, Katie's passivity. Thank you for sharing. Yes, very good. Dana, passivity. Yes, thank you, Dana. Dana's passive. Yes, I'll do it. I want to keep the peace. I want things moving smoothly. Roxanne, passivity. I'm seeing a lot of passivities here. Very interesting. Yes. Heather, 1 after 2. Okay, conflict avoidant. Oh, so after you've been confronting someone competitively, then you're like, now I'm out of here. It's like, mic drop. I said my piece, mic drop, I'm out. Yes, very good. Thank you, Heather. Dana, I feel pride when I take on more work and then I realize I really am able to handle more responsibilities. All right, yes, and absolutely. Listen, if you can take on more and it's not impacting your well-being, absolutely continue doing what you're doing. We are talking about when your workload or your caseload is impacting your well-being, your emotions, your stress, it's the outcomes for your students, your time to effectively manage. So kudos, Dana, if you can actually do it and take on more and you feel good about that and all things are moving forward gracefully and productively, absolutely awesome. Proceed. All right. For me, as I kind of told you before, learning compassionate communication strategies, don't tell anybody. I would handle conflict with passive aggression. I would definitely take that burden with a smile and complain about it behind closed doors to anybody that would listen and complain over and over. And I learned a statement once: you complain, you remain, you praise, you raise. I like that one. You complain, you remain, you praise, you raise. But when frustrations would mount over and over and over again, where I was like, oh, my boundaries are like being busted and broken up here, I would then flip to conflict confrontational. So kind of like the reverse of what Heather shared. I'd be like 2 and then 1, right? And then I'd say things or do things that I later regretted. And I've burnt bridges. I've been in this field to date 17 years, and I have burnt bridges through the years doing and saying things that I later regretted, feeding that evil wolf. Yeah, there are many times that I was not liked at my site. But again, don't tell anybody. I'm whispering, don't tell anybody for those sitting in the back. By learning NVC and studying compassionate communication and practicing a variety of these strategies, I've learned now how to advocate, how to set boundaries, how to express my anger, my emotions fully and wholeheartedly, which we talked about in episode 2 of this podcast mini-series, using the framework from Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. Go to cnvc.org to learn more about him. But this has literally, I kid you not, transformed my personal and my professional life with greater well-being, deeper relationships. I live more authentically, I live more mindfully, and all around, I have more joy. I'm happy on the job. I'm happy with what I do and who I interact with. And I can't explain that in words. It's kind of like love. How do you explain love, right? But it's one of those things where once you practice it, once you practice nonviolent communication or compassionate communication, you immediately start to see what I'm talking about. Much like when you start to love somebody, you start to notice all those little things. This is that, and I want that for you. Let me give you, let's see how much time we have left here. I was going to give you some examples, but I think we're going to be running short on time. If we have time at the end, I'll give some examples and you guys can pop into the chat and guess which conflict style you think that is. I do want to say for my research lovers out there, for all of those that are here, according to a PubMed Central Journal article, and it was titled Conflict Management, Difficult Conversations with Difficult People. This was published in 2013, and this comes directly from the journal article. Conflict occurs frequently in any workplace. Any workplace. You can't jump around from place to place and think you're not going to find it. Healthcare is not an exception. The negative consequences include dysfunctional teamwork, decreased patient satisfaction, and increased employee turnover. No surprise there in our industry. Research demonstrates that training in conflict resolution skills can result in improved teamwork, productivity, and patient and employee satisfaction. You have a reference for this article in your handout. Guys, there are some amazing strategies listed in this journal if you want to tap into that for some conflict resolution skills that are going to support you with managing conflict in the workplace. They're numbered out. They're great. There's one that I want to highlight that aligns with compassionate communication. The one that I'm sharing for this episode, and this is our last objective really, is how to connect to our feelings and needs and build that clear, constructive dialogue. Communicating with those higher ups, right? Our caseload chaos. So that's the last of our 3 objectives for this episode. And these strategies are what we've been talking about in all of our episodes thus far, if you've been following along this podcast mini-series. And that's the 4-step pathway. The first step, identify your observations with I statements. The second step, name your feelings that are universal. The third step, connect to your universal needs. Connect to your universal needs. And the 4th step, make a request of others. And this is in your workbook to download. So grab that handout, scan that QR code, get that workbook. These are some of the pages that are listed there that are going to help you for reframing your texts, your emails, your conversations when you go communicate like a pro with the higher ups after this episode. All right, when we're able to identify and now express what we're feeling and we're needing using this 4-step pathway to communicate compassionately, right? That the 4 steps we've talked about in our other episodes. And again, given to us by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, if you want to look him up. It's here when we are connecting to those feelings and needs that we are starting to balance ourselves in the conflict. It is here that we begin to care for everyone's needs and not just our own. It's here that we begin to express ourselves free from judgment, blame, criticism, right? Because we're now expressing ourselves in a way that connects to what we're feeling and needing. We're unlayering that onion. We're dropping below the words of our thoughts to what's going on with me? What am I feeling? What am I needing? And in doing this, we create space now for relationships to strengthen, teams to be more productive, environments to be more peaceful and harmonious, and honestly, endless possibilities that can be strategized. There are so many solutions to solving problems that we can all bring to the table and work through, right? So many. So the 4-step pathway, again, in your workbook, be sure to check that out. But for those of you who love sentence starters, it has the sentence starters in there too. So for your observation, when I see, when I hear, when I observe, Step 2, feelings. I feel. Step 3, because I need, or because I value, or because it matters to me that, right? Or because it's important to me that. And then the 4th step is request. Would you be willing to? Would it be possible if? Would you mind? All of those nice little sentence starters for you to take all of their story in your mind and put it into this framework to now communicate with the higher ups like a pro. Getting back to the words of our participant, remember they said, caseloads are high, paperwork is profuse, meetings are too long. It's difficult to tell administration in a clear manner why so many people on a caseload makes doing my job less effective. So putting this in a framework, okay, it might sound like this. So I want you guys to listen up for the observation, those I statements, for the I feel statements, for the I need statements, and any requests that are positive, actionable, and clear. Because we always want our requests to be positive, actionable, and clear. So let's pretend this is my email now. Pull up my email that I'm writing to the administration. Dear administration, when I observe that my caseload is at 75 students and the paperwork is profuse, I feel overwhelmed and exhausted because I need to be efficient and effective in my role. The diversity and complexity of cases, remember that from our pointers, demand varying amount of attention and time. When meetings, this is our observation, are 2 to 3 hours in length, taking time for my report writing, and numerous errors occur because I'm burnt out. I feel burnt out when I finally am able to get to writing them. I feel concerned and stressed because I need a work environment that supports accuracy and excellence. I am experiencing, which is just a shade of I feel, if you want to switch up a little, I'm experiencing intense emotions such as hopelessness, anger, and irritation. I feel emotionally drained and anxious because I need a balanced and supportive work atmosphere. When I observe that there isn't enough time to address all tasks adequately, I feel stressed and worried because I need to stay in compliance with timelines. I need that integrity. I notice the high caseload also affects my rapport with my students and relationships with my team. I feel concerned and disappointed because I need to build strong connections with clients and colleagues. When I see that administration does not email me back about the challenges arising from the workload, I feel stuck and unheard because I need open and effective communication channels. Therefore, I'm requesting a meeting next week with you to address the workload issues, including a review of caseload distribution, streamlining paperwork processes, and exploring strategies to enhance efficiency. I believe that by addressing these concerns, we can create an environment that will be supportive for more well-being, reduced errors, and strengthened relationships, ultimately contributing to the overall success of everyone. Sincerely, me. So there we have it. All right, who's with me? Can you hear? Give me a big shout out in the chat box for yes. If you can hear the observation statements, me pointing out specifically the numbers, the diversity in my caseload, the emotions that I'm experiencing, the needs that I have. Yes, the requests that I'm making, I'm seeing yes, yes, yes. Katie, yes, can we get a copy of this example? Yes, Katie, I'm on that because you know what, guys? We are here for you. And if that is your need, I want to make that happen. Yes, Katie. Stephen, yes. Joni, yes. Dana, yes. Thank you for the examples. Absolutely, guys. And you can tweak it. You can copy and paste and change it around to make the words your own because you're going to have your own details in your observations, your caseload numbers, your own, I've got 4 tries this week and 3 new students just came to my caseloads. Your observations are going to look different. But the things that can remain the same is when I see, observe, notice, I feel, because I need, or because I value, or because I have a desire for. Would you be willing to? Those are the sentence starters that are in that workbook. And guess what? The universal feelings that you can plug in there, the universal needs that you can plug in there are in that workbook also. There are charts that are provided for you that use feeling words that will not put people on the defense. If you said something like, I feel abandoned, people might close their ears because that might be a word that triggers them. Well, I didn't abandon you. But we can change and reframe that to a universal feeling word that's in that vocabulary bank, such as, I feel alone. Okay, using alone instead of abandoned, right? So grab that workbook, grab those frameworks, throw in those feelings, throw in those needs, think about what you would like to ask people. And again, make those requests clear, actionable, and positive. All right. There we have it, everyone. Today you're walking out with really understanding the pain points around this high caseload, workload, right? And universal feelings and needs behind them. We're understanding the different habitual ways that we can respond to conflict. And we're also learning new approaches now, the 4-step framework, observation, feeling, needs, request. That's my practical tip that I want you to walk away with today when you are framing those emails, when you are framing those texts, when you are conversing both in your personal life and your professional life with anybody where you think that you're experiencing conflict or challenge. All right, I want to check in one more time with everybody here together. I'd like to close now with a check-in on what's alive for you right now in this moment as we are closing out. If you want to popcorn some feelings that you're having right now or some needs that were met or maybe even not met from our session together, I really invite you to do so. Your feedback is so critical and important in us making sure that we are creating professional development that supports you in the trenches in the field. So popcorn, what everybody's sharing. I want to hear hope. I see hope. I love that. Hopeful. Yes, hopeful that these strategies can make a difference. And again, guys, it's like love. Just start sprinkling it and see the difference it makes. Great ideas to try. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And begin to implement those ideas one small step at a time. Relief. Oh, I love that. Gosh, isn't relief such a great feeling? Thank you. I am pregnant and burning out right now. Yes. Oh, wow. This was a very useful presentation. Katie, congratulations on the pregnancy. And I'm so happy that this met your need for maybe a contribution on ways to handle that burnout and that you can implement that. Enlightenment. Yes, Hazel. Thank you. I love that, Hazel. Enlightenment. Everybody, thank you so much. I want to end our session now with gratitude. Just gratitude to our participant for sharing their struggles and pain points, because the struggle is real. Like, it's not just a saying. I'm not trying to be cute. The struggle is real, guys. It is out there and we can all relate to it. So just a quick moment to take a deep breath in and out with gratitude. Just gratitude for our guest. Coming and closing in this time together before we just open up for any last questions. Breathing in one more time and out. So much gratitude for all of you and for trusting me with your 1 hour, very valuable time in your life. I feel honored and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Remember to download your free guide to the 4-step pathway with some script phrases and a framework for you. For more information about me, head to my website at goldenstateofmindpd.com. My Instagram is golden.state.slp, but you'll just see pictures of me traveling and my daughter. And my LinkedIn, Stephanie Michelle Swigert with 1 L. And you can also join my email list to receive free resources as it relates to compassionate communication in your personal and in your personal and your professional life by going to goldenstateofmindpd.com and popping in your email. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. You're welcome, Dana. Any questions you want to pop in the chat box before we head out, I am here for you. You can also, if something comes up for you later, feel free to put it in the feedback form that you will fill out. Your responses I know it takes time to check those boxes or give us any comments, positive or constructive feedback. It's all welcomed. We're here again to support you. All right, everybody. Blessings to you all and good luck with your communication. I hope you are communicating with the higher ups like a pro after today's episode. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for today's course. To complete the course, you must log into your account and complete the quiz and the survey. If you have indicated that you are part of the ASHA registry and entered both your ASHA number and a complete mailing address in your account profile prior to course completion, we will submit earned CEUs to ASHA. Please allow 1 to 2 months from the completion date for your CEUs to reflect on your ASHA transcript. Please note that if this information is missing, we cannot submit to ASHA on your behalf. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining us at SLP Learning Series. Remember to go to speechtherapypd.com to learn more about earning ASHA CEUs. We appreciate your positive reviews and support and would love for you to write a quick review and subscribe. If you like this and want to hear more, we are offering an audio course subscription special coupon code to listeners of this podcast. Type the word SLP Learn for $20 off. With hundreds of audio courses on demand and new courses released weekly, it's only $59 per year with the code. Visit speechtherapypd.com and start earning ASHA CEUs today.